lined up for you by our two presenters, Fiona and Dave Stella. Both Fiona and Dave are product consultants for LinkedIn marketing solutions and great tips to make 2016 your best marketing year yet. So I just want to go through some housekeeping briefly. So firstly, Fiona will present for 30 minutes, then we have 15 minutes for Q&A. So if you have any questions for the presenters, please put them in the chat box and send them to myself or the host, so I'll be Emma, our host, and then I'll try my best to get through as many questions as possible. And after the session today, you will receive a follow-up email. This is a link to the recording of the session and also a link to Fiona and Dave's deck that they're going to present. One thing before we get underway is that if you find you come off mute, please mute yourself, because we really don't want any interruptions to the presentation. I want everyone to really get the value of it today. Without further ado, I'm going to pass you over to our presenters, Fiona and Dave.
Hi everyone, I'm Dave Stella, one of the product consultants for LinkedIn's marketing solutions. For taking the time to sit with us today to discuss resolutions, as we've called, knowing that getting started after the holidays can be a bit of an endeavor. I've found that the past couple of weeks have been incredibly busy, so we thought it would make good sense for us to try and focus on 4 key areas, largely that tie back to the importance of content, and largely quality, relevant content, and it's really about how we actually engage with that audience in an intelligent manner. So I'll share a little bit more around creating content that does matter. Then I'm going to pass it over to Fiona, where she's going to talk a little bit more around engaging the right audiences. So once you've got that great content, you're focusing on getting it in front of the right people. Talking about a couple of our solutions to make sure that you're actually successful with, once you've got that content, once you're targeting those individuals properly, where are you actually going to present this information? And then I'll bring it home with nurturing our prospects through the funnel. Ultimately, as marketers, the goal is to drive quality leads to the sales force. So it's small little tips on how we can ensure that happens from top of funnel all the way down to the bottom of the funnel. I'll start off with matters. Most of you, and increasingly aware, the world is becoming a lot more difficult for marketers when it comes to influencing purchasing decisions. This journey is not a linear process, illustrated by that chart on the left. And it comes down to the fact that individuals are informing themselves better before they're actually willing to reach out directly. In fact, that suggests from Forrester, individuals are actually doing 90% of that research before they're willing to engage with an organization. So to really have no shortage of information when it comes to destinations online that they can visit to find out information on your products, compare prices, get recommendations, and so on. It's a very, very challenging world. And then against this backdrop, really content is beginning to play an even more important role in this buying process. Make it even easier for buyers to be self-sufficient. And that's why they're able to make it through most of this journey on their own. On average, people are consuming about 10 pieces of content before they make a purchase. And from the chart on the left, it really becomes important to engage with that audience, and often. So what's online? I mean, it's certainly important to ensure that you get your content out early and often. Be successful. Marketers really need to get their brands and their message and content in the right prospects at each stage of that decision-making journey to ensure that you're in the right position, in that strongest possible position to help shape a favorable outcome. In other words, this content is key. So, and it's no surprise that this challenge remains. This relevant content in front of prospects and where they need to is much, much more easier said than done. First, are challenged to cost efficiently get trends and content in target audiences early decision-making process. Highly underscored by this Nielsen statistic that more than 40% of ads are not reaching audiences. 40% of the impressions that you are actually putting together are being wasted. Even when you do get in front of the right prospects, and the investments, large or small, that most marketing organizations are making in content marketing, we're struggling to be relevant and helpful, with between 60 to 70% of content we're creating going unread. In fact, from Serious Decisions uncovered that when the reason as to why B2B content goes unread because it's irrelevant to target audience. When we look at driving prospects down lower parts of the funnel, even when we manage to reach the right audiences, drive them to our websites, 95 out of 100 visitors are those websites without filling out the form. They're doing something and appearing. So in this case, you're converting 5% of your website visitors. In reality, the average is more like 2 to 3. And that's a huge missed opportunity. So this is a pretty sobering snapshot, which there's a lot of potential value actually slipping through our fingers. It presents a pretty big opportunity for upside if it's progress in areas. What if we reach only the right people and deliver high relevant content to them in the channels where they're engaging? And Fiona will share a little bit more about that. But you'd be able to drive them to your site or to their destination based on your campaign. What you could establish an ongoing connection to them, provide them with content on it at the exact right time to really make their purchasing decisions. What if you eliminate all those leaks and run a funnel, generating significantly more conversions and opportunities? This is really where we start to get into the breadth of content. And first off is really showing why people actually come to LinkedIn today. So as you hear from some of these particular stats, professionals rely on LinkedIn as a content hub. If you look at the breakdown of percentages, individuals are coming to LinkedIn, 20% are recommendations or questions. 20% are asking to connect themselves with thought leaders and opinions. So it's ensuring that your voice is across an audience that is already engaging within this platform. The focus around content and being at the core of what you do. LinkedIn, content is our core, and it's a relatively new phenomenon for us. It's really something that our marketing team has been built for the last a little bit more time and investment in the last 2 years. This kind of paramount importance isn't about scale. It's not about driving more content, but it's figuring out how can we actually create more relevant content. Done it a couple ways. First off, through things like keyword analysis. So looking at what people are actually researching, or looking at trending topics that are relevant to LinkedIn, whether it's LinkedIn marketing solutions business, our tech solutions business, or our sales solutions business. And then this really helps guide our editorial team. It informs them as to what's relevant for people who are actually already consuming our information and people that are engaging with us to a certain degree. And from look at pushing the content out, and again, through some that Fiona will touch upon. At that point, this is really where we can look at evaluating our performances. And from it really helps shape our content. And as I'm concerned, we've got a strategy in place, and we've had for probably the past year and a half, 2 years, that really is starting with the big rock. Some of you may have heard something on the lines of a big rock piece of content before. This is something that we've adopted and developed. We're really a style piece of content out into the marketplace, typically a quarter, and help drive a lot of lead generation. But what we do is we actually carve up this piece of content into smaller, more consumable pieces that really look extending the shelf life. So reinventing the wheel with every campaign, it's creating this big content piece, really fuel performance, and then chopping it up in what we call turkey slices. If you think Christmas turkey, you have Christmas turkey on Christmas Day. Christmas Day, you're making turkey sandwiches. The day after, you're making turkey soup. So it's really looking at extending it. A great example of this is Jason Miller, who is one of our content marketers. He was about a year and a half ago from a company called Marketo, and he really looked at bringing this methodology to LinkedIn. This day, the sophisticated marketer's guide and this turkey technique has helped drive 40% of all of our leads last Q1, Q2, and Q3. So, representation of us really extending that mileage and carving up these turkey places to we're not reinventing the wheel every time. Using this big rock, but we're not avoiding the need to actually continuously create new content. So if you think back to that decision statistic, we're not going to waste any of our content. And there's several different formats. So first off, we look at creating some unedited pieces of content, such as infographics, looking at some of the podcasts, small snippets that are easily consumable, that are ultimately going to drive you to the actual download of the full playbook itself, that big rock and that lead gen mechanism. With that, I'm going to pass things over to Fiona, and she'll talk a little bit more about engaging the right audiences.
Great, and hello everybody. Great to be here. So, this talk of turkey reminds me of my New Year's resolutions. But as a marketer, one of my key resolutions this year is to make sure that my marketing efforts are engaging the right audiences. So, but you know, day-to-day busyness always kind of catches up with us. So by the 19th of June, sometimes I feel like I've forgotten those solutions and those best practices. So what to do now is deep dive a little bit into some of the targeting sort of best practices that we recommend having up if you're at your desk so that it's all through the next 12 months. LinkedIn, it goes without saying, gives marketers the ability to reach a high-quality professional audience. The skills, we have 400 million members with over 200,000 new members joining every day. And our mission is really about helping you as a marketer and the rest of our 400 million members to do three key things. Work and stay with their colleagues, stay informed, and do all the professionally relevant content that's shared on LinkedIn every day, be that brands or influencers, SlideShare, or across lynda.com, and the next great career opportunity. The other really comes very strongly from the second pillar. As the knowledge and the information and the content that their jobs and their careers, business brands have a critical role to play in providing it helps them achieve those objectives. There's an enormous amount of rich first-party data that you as a marketer can leverage. So join LinkedIn and now continuously update their profiles. There's an enormous amount of information about the companies, the industry, the size, who they are, what function, things. But they're also really following groups. They're also comments. They're also engaging with brands. And by that, there's an enormous amount of other information that we can leverage. So after running a program on LinkedIn, it's about having the ability to leverage our rich data that you are able to focus your investments on exactly the professional audiences that you're looking to reach and engage with your content. So as mentioning, it's all about relevant content, but it's all about engaging relevant audiences. To take a sort of a deep dive into a typical member. For the purposes of today, I'm going to call him Joe. Joe, when he joined LinkedIn, has completed his profile, inputted a wide range of information. And on the screen here, you can see that everything in green, maybe blue, depending on your screen resolution, is everything that Joe has inputted himself. We refer to that as self-shared data or first-party data. So he's inputted his name, his location, his school, field of study, graduation, company, and job title, and so on. And this sort of brown or yellow is everything we can then leverage from that self-declared data to infer other data points which a marketer can leverage. For example, Joe has declared informed on his profile that he graduated from a college in a certain year. And then from that, we then infer that he's a certain sort of age demographic. Inputted that he works for Kickstart Incorporated. The fact that Kickstart on their own company page has inputted they have between 200 to 500 employees and work within the internet industry, we can infer or give opportunities to marketers to reach Joe or to reach individuals like Joe who are for SMBs within the internet industry. Another self-declared data point that we can reference to, and which allows us to look at function and seniority. This amount of really niche granular targeting available to you as a marketer on any day to really ensure that your content, which is relevant to them, gets in front of them and gives them the opportunity. I'd like to put up this slide because it's a bit of a watch out, because the temptation is to go really granular. We always recommend to our customers when we're setting up campaigns, best practice, really stop and think about, well, who else in the buying journey, and I've already illustrated how long and complex that journey is, who might be the person that's influencing the maker. So it's about thinking about having a bigger audience that will, beyond those test the products and perhaps the contract. It's about the individuals that are going to be inputting and also researching. So to set up your campaign, also consider targeting the senior IC, individual contributors, that part of that buying journey. Anybody from the senior system network engineers, CEOs, accountants, lawyers, and scientists. So don't be granular that you miss the opportunity to really influence the total buying journey. Moving forward is about how you can leverage users or members' sort of behavior. So we can aggregate member personas, as we refer to them here. They were formerly, maybe some of you remember, as custom segments. And these unique aggregations of targeting facets, which we then work with marketers to help them reach a very particular audience. So for example, just to give you some numbers, on LinkedIn we have over 10.7 million opinion leaders. We have 8 million C+ executives. Just to kind of call out a couple examples here, we would be able to, for certain subject to criteria, allow a marketer to engage with what we refer to as maybe career changers. Somebody in the last year or the last 3 months who moved company or had a promotion within an organization. Again, a lot of sort of behavioral data points in addition to that, which I've taken you through earlier with Joe, which you leverage in your 2016 campaigns, and really that objective or that resolution of getting content in front of the right person. Now, sort of, if you like, ticked off those 2 resolutions, what we really wanted to do is have a bit of a deep dive, again, to be even more successful within marketing solutions. So, LinkedIn has products that every stage of your funnel. Built to end full funnel set of to help your content impact every stage of the buying funnel. So, here at the screen, you can see at the top of the funnel, we have display advertising, which gives you 2 powerful ways to make sure you're reaching new audiences, that radar, and building brand and engaging content with the right people. LinkedIn on-site display and LinkedIn network display. Journey down your funnel, content, as Dave has taken you through, plays an absolutely vital role in driving prospects from one stage to the next and about being relevant. Here, LinkedIn sponsored updates lets your content get directly into the LinkedIn newsfeed, where you're essentially capturing people's attention when they're most engaged. And the lower half of the funnel as a marketer, and this is really direct response, objectives and goals really plays a key and reigns supreme. Sponsor is, essentially a game changer in terms of taking email marketing effectiveness to the next level. So the acquisition stage of the funnel, your other programs, as your other sort of, having leverages the solutions that I just described there, it's about then moving them into the ultimate goal, lead conversions, pipeline contribution and customer acquisition. And LinkedIn Accelerator, which Dave is going to take through towards the end, is about achieving that, those objectives. Today, Dave, really though, we wanted to focus on the mid to lower funnel. So I'm just going to cover the next couple of slides and introduce you some best practices. Again, pin up in front of your desk throughout the next 12 months, have there, some top tips from our team to really get more out of LinkedIn sponsored updates and also InMail. So sponsored updates is to publish relevant content straight to the LinkedIn feed. Whether a computer or a tablet or a mobile device, the receipt of updates from their connections and people they review or brands they follow. You have the opportunity to position your brand into this really highly visible space through updates. Updates is that they're interactive, so additional posts in the feed would be getting traction through likes, comments, and shares, which is going to help you further your message and drive additional awareness and reach for your content. But as I've already taken you through, because this is a paid marketing product, you have the ability to leverage that really rich data in terms of targeting to make sure that you're really reaching the people that this content is going to be most relevant to. So I think there's a bit of a buzzword in this session today, which is relevancy, and I think that's really sort of something that we're sort of very focused on as we go into this year. Slide really is, I'm often asked, when working with customers, what to make a really effective sponsored update. So this is kind of like the anatomy of a really great sponsored update. It's like the kind of backbone, best practice principles that we recommend you adhere to over the next 12 months. So if we build out this solution here, we can see it's very much about, once you've identified the content, let's talk about, sort of how you're going to capture your audience's attention. So, strong is 1,000 words. Make images that are really are going to resonate with your audience. So we often find that images of recognized leaders, interesting graphics, cult images, they all work really well and help drive up your click-through rate significantly. Like addressing your audience directly. So think about, addressing sort of, it's like, hey, entrepreneurs, or starting with a question is a really great way to drive engagement from immediately. And it also allows you to customize your message to the audience that you've selected to target. Make sure everything is, keep concise in your update, especially for the introduction text. Any more than 140 characters is probably not going to deliver a strong performance for you, so under 140 characters. The type of content that you put and you promote is really important. 2 top tips here. Snackable content lists, instant insights, are always a way to engage your audience on LinkedIn. But also think about matching your content to your marketing objective. So if you have brand awareness, you do not want to lead your audience to a white paper somewhere else, but in the sponsored update, have a lighter version of the research promoted. So think about what exactly are we trying to do with the sponsored update, and how are you trying to make that content relevant to that stage of the buying funnel, to that particular audience that you've already selected. Something I think is really a great way in terms of learning, being able to personalize and to have control, is leveraging direct sponsored content. These dark posts, as we refer to them, let really specific messaging to your audience. Sponsored content enables you to display content directly to user's feed without publishing it on your company or showcase page. So this is something that I think we don't do enough, and I really recommend to any sort of new customer that I'm working with or marketer that I'm working with to really leverage this, because if you're sort of on sponsoring content that you're sharing publicly on your brand page, you're probably by default going to have a very direct messaging strategy. But with content, you can speak directly to who it is you're targeting, which would really greatly improve your conversion rates. It's all about personalization today. The next, in terms of another opportunity, is reaching your audiences with audience expansion. Moving forward, audience expansion is an opportunity for you if we can move to the next slide, which is among your audiences similar to the target group. So, for example, if you're targeting members or an audience with the skill online advertising, audience enables you to serve your campaign to members who list the skill interactive marketing on his or her profile. So a little bit pause because I'm just going to catch up with me there. I think they might have got stuck for a couple of people. So I'm just going to, this is how you would set up audience expansion. It's really about raising awareness at scale. So just to sum up in terms of sponsored updates, always include a visual source and suite. Stats work wonders, and varieties spice up. There's never enough, A/B test and see what's working. So moving on, we're also going to look at sponsored email. So moving ahead, sponsored email is, one of our strongest performing solutions here at LinkedIn. Has an open rate nearly double that of traditional email at 41.2%, and a click rate, or CTR, 4.8% compared to traditional email of about 2.9%. So it works so well. Well, sponsored email sends timely personal messages. They're only delivered when members are actively engaged on LinkedIn, and that's how we define real-time. It's desktop and mobile, and most importantly, members only receive one sponsored email every 60 days. So, 60-day rule. About 70% of recipients only receive one sponsored email annually, and then 30% receive 2 to 3 annually. So recipients are just not being bombarded, and this is giving you as a marketer a really strong exclusive share of voice. Best practice, what is a really good, like I always say, it starts with the preview panel. First impressions and count, all walks up, and it's no less true for here on LinkedIn. It's about thinking of limit the subject and description lines to 3 to 8 words, include call to action or benefit in the subject, context, and call to action is really important to consider, because this will determine whether you should send the email from a company or an individual. So you can select whether you're going to send this email from your brand or perhaps somebody within the company. And it's really kind of the tone of voice that you want to adopt. So, for example, if you want to sort of, in your body message saying, I thought you would like to know, I wanted to share, then probably best to send it as an individual. Whereas a more generic or broader reach message, for example, or, come to this webinar or download a white paper, then sending it from a company is going to resonate better. And the inbox preview should always be consistent with the landing page. This world of mobile. On average, we see 30 to 40% of opens happen on mobile. So again, some top tips here. Short and concise to avoid overwhelming the member is overwhelming. So always recommend under 1,200 characters. Include a clickable link in the message body. Really get a stronger response rate or click-through rate on mobile. Too much formatting and spacing. We usually find plain text and up to 3 bullets work best. And landing pages mobile responsive. That's just an absolute given today in 2016. And only build your form, your data capture form, to capture the information that's vital. We all have suffered that fat finger sort of challenge of trying to complete a form on a mobile device. So make it easy and seamless for your target audience to be moved down the funnel with you. So wrap up there. In terms of sponsored email, best practices, things to keep in mind in 2016, sticking to the resolution, use targeting to deliver the right message, create inbox preview to really drive opens, develop content that is really about helping helpful versus strictly sells, the value exchange. All content is optimized for mobile engagement, and a very simple landing page with a clear conversion path, so it's a seamless journey for your target audience. So, sort of the other thing, just to kind of reiterate, is ensure your message. I always kind of say, if you have to say one thing walking away today, is like, with InMail, why would the audience read this? And going back to the targeting capabilities, considering the influencer to the decision, talking about whether you should send it from a company or from a brand or from an individual. Think who in your organization or who your brand is, somebody with ability, somebody that resonates with a particular group, somebody that has experience and expertise, so you can have that really personal engagement. So with that, I'll hand over to Dave, who's just going to take you through the real opportunities to make sure that your content and audiences can be even more relevant at the very lower stage of the funnel and nurture those prospects all the way down to the acquisition.
Thanks, Fiona. Hopefully everyone's able to hear me. I had some slight technical difficulty where I got kicked off the audio and then back, so you are all able to hear me. So thanks, Fiona. Some great stuff around sharing a little bit more around the targeting piece. So again, relevancy and content, I think, are the two pieces that have been real focal points for the last 30 minutes or so. I'm going to bring it home with the last piece of our chat today and really looking at the development of nurturing these prospects and using some of the content methodologies that we've been speaking about as you carry on through the funnel. So let's start off by rethinking what demand generation as we know it and the role that content plays in this evolution. I know we've spoken largely about kind of the mid to bottom part of the funnel, but first I'm going to start off with actually letting go of that bottom part of the funnel for a moment. Now, ultimately, that is the most important part. That's really where the qualified leads that you are working very, very hard to achieve are then passed over to sales, and hopefully they're converting. But I actually want to start at the top of the funnel for all intensive purposes to really help set that stage for your demand generation efforts and helping shape that success. It's really there that you need to start embracing this funnel. Email are channels. They aren't going away anytime soon, and they certainly do have their value. But if you rely solely on these traditional channels and really focusing on that bottom funnel activity, you're going to encounter some challenges when it comes to more individuals and engaging with that right audience that you're looking for. Especially applies in the business-to-business or high-consideration B2C space, knowing that these decision-making and buying cycles can be long and very complex. So think back to the first slide I shared about engaging with that audience early and often to be able to differentiate your brand, your positioning, the services that you actually offer. Let's talk about 95% of website visitors, or in reality 97 to 98% website visitors who aren't converting on your website. We help tap into those individuals and drive value for your anonymous website visitor traffic. It's not unreasonable for someone not to want to fill out your form away. Those high consideration B2C purchases, as mentioned, are complex and they can be long. So you need and differentiate yourself to ensure that people feel comfortable enough to provide their information and can that big rock that you've been working on. Demand gen marketers have really been sitting back and hoping that people would actually just come back to their site and eventually convert. But with what we've been talking about today, this no longer has to be the case. We can actually go out and find those individuals, engage with that audience, and help drive them back to the website to really get that 95% conversion to go down. Third, the importance of relevant content itself, and it's something that we've been speaking about for the past 30 minutes. To what extent have we been able to do this for both prospects, so people that you know, as well as individuals that are sitting in your database, as well as anonymous individuals. So it is tailoring that messaging and slicing up that content to ensure that it's efficiently consumed based on the different stages of that decision-making process. And let's look at how we can help conquer that unpredictability of the buying process that we did a little bit earlier, and really look at helping prospects with great content that we've been chatting about, most receptive to it. So go, being able to present that content in a consumable format on their mobile device. If it's in the morning, if it's in the evening, able to actually ensure that there is that relevancy through the decision-making cycle. So with that, I'll share a little bit more around a live scenario for someone by the name of Ellen. And it's really looking at a real-world scenario, marrying that right piece of content or series of content with that right prospect based on where they are in that buying cycle. Like Ellen, she's an individual searching for the best credit card for her business needs. She's searching, it's somehow driven her to the American Express page. Once it's landed on the page, we then start to actually collect information based on that first-party data that Fiona was mentioning before. So we use something called an insight tag, where we have the ability to actually start to capture Ellen's key demographic information, where in the world, her company size, her industry, what her seniority is, and what her job function is. And first, we're able to identify that Ellen is a small business owner. If America has a campaign or solution for the small business owner, we can then start to engage Ellen in a relevant manner across her web experience, of where she's going on the web. If it's through her business travels, we can get in front of her on business-related websites. If she's on LinkedIn, consideration about what her colleagues are doing, what her peers are doing, what the competitive landscape is doing, we can put her there. Or if she's looking at what her nieces and nephews are doing on Facebook, we really engage with Ellen across all of these channels, active of location or she's actually engaging with. And I actually saw a recent study posted on NewsCred last week, and it was a study actually produced by HubSpot, showing that LinkedIn is 277% more effective for lead generation than other social media platforms. So it's a powerful tool, and something that, as Fiona mentioned earlier on in this conversation, that hasn't really been a focal point for us. But really to help this drive this mid to low part of the funnel to help drive those conversions is really what Lead Accelerator looks at addressing. Piece before we recap is really just showing a visual representation of what this actually may look like. Knowing we've talked a little bit about content, presenting it to the right individuals based on their decision-making stages, is really a manifestation of visually what it may happen to look like. On the left, you see someone that's actually landed on the home page and then disappeared. On the right, you see an individual that's engaged with a product. On the left, this home page bouncing. Probably a conversation will develop is a conversation, a little bit higher level messaging that really focuses on overall brand positioning. Where individuals on the right that have shown a little bit more interest, they've landed on a particular product page, this conversation or nurturing is going to be a little bit more aggressive in terms of maybe longer nurturing program to tell a more detailed and defined story as you want to share it, and ultimately lead those individuals back through a series of messages that drive them to that rock piece of content and get to actually convert. To recap, first, don't underestimate the value of that top funnel. That's really the point where you have the ability to drive even more conversions as they make their way down the funnel. Next, look at tying into those individual web visitors. This is a huge, huge untapped resource where you can instead of come to your site for a particular reason, and it's all about re-engaging those individuals. Engaging with those individuals in a relevant manner. So being sure that you have the conversations at their top part of the funnel, just hitting for the first time, or looking at a specific product, pricing, whatever it may be. And then making sure that you're actually getting in front of individuals when they're most receptive to it. If they're on the go, if they're in the office, if they're on LinkedIn, or if they're off LinkedIn. Thanks very much for taking the time today. Just recapping, covering off the importance of content and the relevance of content, and making sure you're getting in front of the right audiences when you're doing the individuals. So segmenting those audiences and ensure you're aligning that content based on those right segmentations. A couple of solutions that can actually look at addressing the mid to bottom part of the funnel, and last but not least, helping to nurture those individuals through that funnel experience. For best practices, case studies, details about sponsored email, LinkedIn Lead Accelerator that we discussed today, don't hesitate to get in touch or contact or visit marketing.linkedin.com. And with that, I will pass it over to Emma.
Thanks so much, everyone, for joining the webcast, and there was some great insights there. The chat box and the Q&A have been totally on fire with questions and comments, so I'm going to try through as many as I can. I know we're kind of getting close to time, so firstly, here's a question. Do you need new content to be able to get started with sponsored updates and InMail? So maybe Dave or Fiona could take that one.
I think they're surprised. There's probably more content out there than you believe or you imagine. Great place to start is on your company page. Your PR team, your insights or research teams, if you have them, are probably busy at work creating loads of quality content. And if you think back to that big rock and turkey slices, there's loads of stuff in those little nuggets that you can actually look at sharing with your target customers. So working on your company page, your blog, some internal resources, a wonderful way to actually tease out quality content and then deliver out to a broader audience.
Brilliant. Thanks so much. We have a question here. It's more about pricing. What are the pricing models for sponsored updates?
Great. I'll answer that. So customers can bid based on either cost per click, CD, or per 1,000 views, CPM. So how it works is that every time a page with a sponsored update, i.e. the LinkedIn feed, an auction in effect takes place to determine the sponsored updates to be displayed. The bidding price and relevance score determine the winner of the sponsored updates auction. And I'm often asked what factors come into play in terms of the relevance score. So scores are calculated at the creator level, but all factor in advertiser and campaign level data, and performance tends to be reviewed in the last 30 days are the most crucial. So to ask Emma, CPC or CPM, and the sort of different ways that you can apply those models to get the best result.
Brilliant. So I have loads of questions about sponsored updates. So another one, how do I pace sponsored update campaigns? So how long should they go on for, basically?
For an overall business account, we typically recommend having it run for at least 3 months. For campaigns with very sort of specific, maybe shorter end goals, I recommend running it at least 2 weeks to gauge performance. Anything less than that really doesn't give you the time to leverage optimization, to leverage the direct sponsored content I took you through before. It's really key that if a certain campaign or audience isn't performing well, making sure you have enough time to tweak the campaign or turn it off in favor of better performing creative and copy. So, we'd always recommend giving yourself enough time rather than say a very short 1 week campaign can sometimes is not enough time to learn and optimize.
Brilliant. Moving on from sponsored updates, a lot of people are also asking about sponsored InMails. This was also talked about in the presentation. So one quick question here is there a limit to how many companies or groups a sponsored InMail can target?
So there's 100 target limit for sponsored InMail. So a campaign can have up to 100 company guilds or schools, for example, targeted. So yeah.
Brilliant. Another one with InMail. With InMail, does it only include on the text in a sponsored InMail?
Yeah. What's referring there is that within InMail, you also have the opportunity to run a banner in the top right corner. Just one thing I'm always sort of asked about is, well, can we direct the banner place and the InMail to another destination? Again, thinking about that seamless buyer's journey, that seamless member experience, banner in the button, the InMail must share the same URL. Just something to flag. It does come up. I can see another couple of questions about it. To really focus, as I say, the end user, the member, on a singular call to action for your marketing goals. One thing, however, we can do though is we can track clicks for the button and the banner separately. So that's a good way of seeing what's ranking as well.
Brilliant. So we're coming up on time, so I'm going to get in 1 or 2 more questions. And don't ask the question. I'm going to pass them all on to Fiona and Dave, and they're going to get back to everyone directly. So no problems there. First one I'm going to go to is what channels and ad formats can you run with LinkedIn lead Accelerator.
Yeah, I'll take that one, Emma. Great question. Sorry, I should have mentioned that during the conversation. So I mentioned kind of across platforms and really kind of across web experience, but specifically LinkedIn, we have the ability to engage with content from a sponsored updates as well as a display space. There's a little ad you didn't see on the right-hand side. Also the ability to engage with content on Facebook. So on the news feed, as of a couple of weeks ago, on the right-hand rail, as well as standard IB display formats across our property, so LinkedIn.com as well as Slider, as well as a network of sites across the web. So it really looks at getting in front of individuals irrespective of where they are. So looking at that relevancy and recency importance and engaging with them wherever they happen to be across their web journey.
Brilliant. Back that I'm a bit far away from the mic, so I'm going to come closer for this final question. What does the audience insight tab reveal to advertisers?
I'll take that one, Fiona. So I alluded to it a little bit when I was kind of walking through Ellen's kind of workflow when she is researching some business cards. Insight tag, which is something that we have the ability to implement in typically about 48 hours, and placing customers' website, shares a tremendous amount of rich data and business demographics that individuals can consume from overall traffic to the web, their web. Data points include, as I already mentioned, the company size, industry, functional area, seniority, and their location. And we have the ability to actually segment out audiences. So we can look at ring fencing particular areas. So if there is a property, or if there is particular product pages or value portions of the website, we can really ring fence those to understand what kind of audience you're getting to those parts of the website. And there's really two benefits there. First off, hopefully reinforces the kind of strategy that you already have in place in terms of engaging with audiences. So you may see on product pages, and you are used to having enterprise customers in the technology space, you will see a lot of traffic coming from those demographic areas. So you may also see that there's a lot of individuals from the SE space and in manufacturing. And if you have a product or service that can address that audience, this is a wonderful tool to actually identify white space, or you can actually look at investing time and resources to actually develop marketing strategies against.
So that's the questions I'm going to reach out on the call. One final question I'm going to answer that I've gotten a few times directed at me was, yes, we are going to send out the presentations and the recording. You'll probably receive those in your inboxes tomorrow. But everyone else's questions, I will definitely pass them on to Dave and Fiona, and they're going to contact everyone directly. Thanks everyone for joining the webcast and for all your input and interactions. I'm just going to ask it to Dave and Fiona now to leave any ending remarks.
Yeah, so I guess it's really just for me, it's just about like the resolutions. It's not just about the gym membership, but it's about those best practices, marketing goals, so that in 12 months' time, you enter into 2017, you've had a really great, successful 2016. So sticking to solutions, not just for a couple of weeks.
For me, the last piece, it's the big rock. I think if you're not already doing something like a big rock, have a little bit of a thing. If you are already doing it, think about new ways that you can kind of break that piece up and make more snackable, consumable piece of content so you're not reinventing the wheel every time. It makes your world tremendously easier, hopefully more effective as well.
Brilliant. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.